Hi, it's David here again. In this video, I'm going to be performing some SQL operations to answer a business problem. And what is the business problem? I created a hypothetical problem. This looks like what you might find in the real world. It might not be exact, but it gives a glimpse on what you're going to see when you start working with SQL, because SQL is meant to solve a business problem. On my screen, I have a business problem. It's hypothetical, I just came up with it, but it's very useful for what we're going to do. A business named TechCore is struggling to manage employee information. Please take note of this, employee information, because this will give you an idea of what you should implement when you want to implement the solution to that. They need a systematic approach to store, retrieve, update, and delete employee data. The lack of centralized database makes it challenging to track employees' details, such as names, ages, and departments. To address this issue, TechCore aims to implement a basic SQL database for managing employee information effectively. What do we do? So, I've come up with a list of steps we can use to tackle this problem. There are a couple of things I told you to note. The first is the employee information. And we have these names, ages, and department. And they also want to do something. They want to be able to effectively manage to do operations like update and delete employee data. So I've come up with these steps we can use to approach this problem. The first is to create a new database. When we create a new database, we design a table called employees. And after that, we're going to insert some sample data. In practice, when you're working within organizations, they have different data that they work with, coming from their source applications, enterprise applications, coming from customer websites, coming from apps, customer use. But for our use case, we're going to be creating that, and we're going to be creating basic data retrieval. Then we'll write SQL queries to retrieve employee information in various ways, and we'll do data modification as well. How do we get started? Let's go over to SQL Server Management Studio. First, ensure that you have your SQL Server Management Studio open. And in my case, I have mine. And if you've not downloaded this or you don't know how to go about it, you can check my other videos. I've explained on how to download and install SQL Server Management Studio. First, we're going to create our database. Let's say create. Don't forget the step. In the step, we are creating a new database. So we're going to create a database. We'll say create database. We'll give a database a name. I'm going to call my, what name should I use? So let's say employee DB. And let's create this. All we need to do, this is on master. I'm going to execute this. It tells me that my database has been created successfully. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy this because I now want to use this database. You can as well do it from here, but I just want to put it within my code to have that executed. So I'm going to say use employee DB. And because I've created my database, there's no need for running this code again. So I could just comment it out. And with this, it's gone. When I run this, this is not going to run again. I'm just going to run my execution. And the moment I click on execute, you see employee DB comes up here telling me that this is the database that I'm using currently. So I'm going to be creating a table called employee. I had it in caps. Create table employee. Okay, let's say employees. I open my bracket. close the bracket, and every operation I'm going to be doing will be performed inside here. I'll say employee ID. Employee ID, I'm going to be giving it a data type of int. And I will say make this a primary key. Good. So when you go back to this, you have other requirements. So we're going to have the employee ID, of course, and they mention the names. So we create, this has been done. So let's do it this way. For anyone I create, I'm going to delete. Have this deleted. Define table structure. So this is where we are. Employee ID, first name, last name, age, and department to store each of this data. So we've created employee ID. We're going to go back to create our first name. So we'll say first name, or let me write it in camel case. First name, and the first name I'll give it this varchar data type, and let me give it a length of 50. Okay, first name, last name. Similar here, I can give it a length of 50 as well. You can increase the length as the case may be, and I create the age. The age, I want to make it an integer. So we have one final one, which is, I think, the department. Yeah, we have the department to create, and so we call it department. Department, variable character. The partner, would it be more than 50? Okay, so let me just go for 50. But when you are creating this, you need to understand the use case within your organization, and it gives you an idea on what to use here. So I'm going to execute this. Please ensure this is commented out so you don't do that, or better still, just have it deleted. Let me just do that to be safe. All right, so this has been created, and when I come to my databases, there's a previous databases that I have. I can just open my employee DB, go to tables, and you will see my employee table. I can also come and right click on this and say select top 1000 rows. It gives me the table that I just created. I don't have any data yet in it. And this is what we are going to do as the next step. So this has been taken care of. We design a table employee, define a table structure with columns for this, and we've created all of these to store our employees' details. So we're going to insert. And to do insert, to make it quicker, I have this data here I want to insert into my table. So what am I going to do? What I'm going to do is to say insert into where my employee table, which I created and called it employees, right? And I'm going to say values. These are the values. Insert into employees this table with these values. And if you've not written this, all you have to do, just put them in bracket. The first comes in a bracket and separated by a comma, and the second comes in a bracket. What it means is that this is going to be the employee IDs. This will be the first name. This will be the last name, the age, and department. So I'm going to run this, and before I run that, I'm going to say use. Don't forget, we created a database to use for this, and I'll say use employee DB. So the IntelliSense has brought it up for me. So I click this, use employee DB, and query this. You can also come here and just click on the employee DB, but I just want to do it in my code as well. So let's execute. 5 rows affected. What it means is that this has been run. Let's come back here and say, you can say select top 1000 rows, or you could just remove the top 1000 and say select everything from this table. Let me just get all, and I can execute this, and you can see the data that I just added to this table. So this second part has been taken care of. Is the step says we should populate the employees data, the table, with at least 5 records, simulating re-employee information, which is what I just did. Okay, so the next step is going to be to select each of these items. Basic data retrieval, write SQL queries to retrieve employee information in various ways, such as fetching all records, selecting specific records, and filtering based on age or department. This is where your knowledge of SQL comes into play. I have done the first one, which is to select employee ID, select first name, select last name, select age, select department. You could do a lot of things. You could say, I want to select just the employee ID and the first name. And you can do that, and it returns the information. You could say you want to select where, you can add a condition to say where the first name is equal to John. You can actually filter to say where this is equal to John, or you can write another script. Let me just copy this to say select this, right? Where, okay, let me select all. You could do select all from employee. And let me just select all before I add this. So you just select this and you run. And I'm going to say where the employee ID is greater than 3. Is greater than 3. And I could just run this. And so you've been able to answer that basic question where it says that this is they're unable to interact with the employee data that they have and all of that. But there's some more activities you can run here. We can do update statement as well. So we can say update employee. I'm going to change this first name to Jane. So how do you do that? You're going to say update our table, which is employee, right? Employees. Update employees, and the next you say set first name equal to what? Jane. Now the question is, how do you know? So let me select all and return all the data to have an idea. So how do you know what particular row to use is going to be affected? Because what this is saying is update this table. I want to update this table. What do I want to do on the table? I want to set the first name, this column, to Jane. If I don't put a where clause, what this is going to do is going to change all of this first name to Jane. Well, I can attempt to do that because I have very small data and I can always recreate my data. So let me do that and show you. If I say update employee, set first name equal to Jane, and I run this, all the names is going to change to Jane. The 5 rows have been affected. When I select this, select all the names have been changed to Jane. Well, I've made a mistake. I don't like this. I want to get rid of all of my data and just start afresh. In the real world, don't do this. Don't do this in your organization. Don't do this when you start working with SQL and working with real data. Always set the where clause. And don't even truncate. The reason I'm going to truncate now is because it's a small data and I'm just using it for demo. I'm going to truncate this table. I'm going to say truncate, and truncate just deletes all the records from the table. I'll say truncate. Let me say truncate employee table. All right, so I'll say truncate my employee table. Sorry, truncate table employees. So let me run this. And if I'm to select all again, let's select. Everything is out. I can put back my data into this place and just run this and have my data again. So let me get this into this place so you understand and see how this data work. And try to comment on your script to make it understandable. Insert into employee table. All right, this is good. So when I want to do an update statement, just to show you that my data is restored, let me run this, execute, my data is restored. If you want to update this, always remember to do this, to say where, right, I want to change this Alice to Jane. Is the Alice I want to change to Jane. So I'm going to say where employee ID, because this is the primary key, this is the unique key, is not going to apply to more than one record. I'm going to say where employee ID, right, is equal to 4. Yes. Employee ID is equal to 4. Update records. Update this. So because we have Jane, let me use Robert. I'm going to, or Rob. I'm going to update to Rob. There's a Bob. Oh, okay. Let me update to Rob and say execute. If I'm to run again to select all, it's changed to Rob. And so these are things you just need to know when working with update statement. Ensure you have a where clause. So I call this update statement, and I'm going to comment it out. All right, so let's do a delete. I'll say delete statement similar. If you want to delete, you should have a where clause. Let me write a basic one. Delete. This comes with from. Where am I deleting from? I'm deleting from my employees table. Delete from my employees table. If I run this again, it's going to delete everything. To ensure that I don't delete my entire table, I need to add a where clause. Delete is always used than truncate because truncate is quite dangerous, especially when you're working with real-time data. Don't truncate unless it's a business requirement, because when you truncate, everything goes. For delete, I'm going to add a where clause to say delete from employees where, right? Okay, this rule is already affected. Let's say where employee ID is equal to 4. Where employee ID is equal to 4. and I'm going to get rid of this row. And let me execute this. It's out. Let's select all again and see what has happened. It's out. 4 is out, and is not going to be replaced by any other thing because this is a primary key. And these are different manipulations that you can do, and that answers the question of data modification updates the age of a specific employee and delete the record of another employee, showcasing the ability to modify data in a database. We've done this. Select specific columns and filtering based on age or department. We've done this. The same process, you can also filter on department. I can say select this where department is equal to IT. Let me say department is equal to IT. Similar, I can do this and the returns for only IT as a department. In subsequent videos, we're going to be doing something a bit more complex to do with SQL. And this is just like basic to give you the basic idea of how to write basic scripts, simple scripts with SQL. And when we take it a bit higher, you understand more use cases that you can apply with SQL. Thank you. See you in my next video. Bye.